Hi guys, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the Looks Rare podcast. No Scaly Nelson again this week. So I'm here with Zinc and Punk Vanderlei and myself, Pep. Just gonna hang, talk about the market, talk about what's been going on. I think like we were just saying before we started that we should, in the same way you do when you do spaces, we'll give people a chance to fall in and we'll just sort of chit chat. How are you guys doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing fine too.
We're all spread out in time zones too. I imagine like it's like the middle of the night for you, right?
Yeah, this is like out of all of the podcast timings we've done, this is the most weird and savage for me so far. I literally had like 2-3 hours sleep and then was like, okay, right. So I've brewed the largest mug of coffee that you can possibly brew yourself, and I'm slurping that down. So here we are.
Well, I appreciate this time. It's like perfect for me. So I'm sorry you're tired, but I feel great.
No, that's what I figured. Right. Let me just make sure that I've got everything sorted. So yeah, we were just talking before we started about what's been going on, and I mean, there's a few things to chat about. The market's been doing some stuff that the market hasn't been doing for a minute in the last week or 10 days. There's a lot of volume in certain areas, and I've also got like a list of other things we could chat through. The Ryder Rip stuff is hot on people's minds as well. The Bored Ape Yacht Club. I don't know. We'll get into that in a little while. I did have another list of topics someone else has shared as well, so I'm just going to make sure I've got everything to hand. Shout out to everyone who's already in the stream chat. We've got Killy, Sophia Fox, Super, Apple Pie Chart. I don't know if you guys want to retweet the live now thingamajig.
I don't know if there's where the link is.
Okay, one sec. Dump it into
chat. Just tweet it on the pod, and then
let me.
I'll just retweet the pod.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is the loose episode after hours.
Yeah, after hours. Yeah. I mean, it could have been a Spaces, but this would be, this is better. Spaces without the show.
I haven't been on one in a while, so I'm kind of glad to get back at it.
Yeah, we've missed you for
at least a month probably.
Yeah, about a month.
Yeah, it's been hard times, and like 1 a.m. is kind of tough, and then it's just been. I think I'm feeling like everyone else, just a little bit of the the burnout. We've been going hard in this space for like it's weird, right? Because I think a lot of people came, even if you've been here for a year, right? A lot of people came in where it was kind of already you kind of knew things were happening, right? Like a lot of people entered in July or August or even in the fall, and you kind of had a sense of like, okay, I'm not doing something completely insane. And I feel like for a lot of people who were like here in 2020 or any of this stuff when none of this stuff was worth anything, like you just had so many. This has just been such an emotional roller coaster for the past 24 months. It's been been absolutely insane. So yeah, I needed a little bit of a break, just to get my catch my breath a bit. Because it was like, it's one of those things where it's like you knew for a long time that this was important, this is going to be big, and then it was validated all through the summer last year, and you just felt like you're in cloud nine, right? And then now with everything kind of crashing, it's just kind of like starting to second guess yourself. But I think things are starting to heat back up again. So I think we're kind of over that hump of viability. Now it's just about building.
Yeah, because you haven't been on the last week or two, we haven't spoken to you about what's been happening with 3 Arrows Capital and Celsius and BlockFi and everything else. And since the last pod, there's been a bit of confirmation of stuff that we were kind of talking about, as far as there were only rumors of it at that point, with bailouts from Alameda, FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried.
Even Goldman, right?
Yeah, and maybe Goldman. Although I'm not sure if that Celsius Goldman thing was just whether there's substance to that or whether there's a few sort of people just trying to put positive rumors out there to quell some of the carnage in the market. But there have 100% been some lines of credit extended to lenders that were exposed to Three Arrows. So the Alameda guys have somewhat altruistically tried to backstop certain things in certain places to protect investors, I guess at the retail level. Like, I mean, they say it's they're giving us the impression that it's altruistic, and perhaps it is to a degree, but I mean, you can't believe it is 100%. There has to be some kind of rhyme and reason to it as well, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't know like what the exact situation with their intentions are, right? But like, these guys are kind of famous for, heavily farming DeFi tokens and strategically dumping them, and like they're excellent at making profits in this space, right? So it's hard to believe that there's like an actual altruistic intent here.
Yeah.
But you never know. Like I could see like these things are such big. I don't know. In some sense, it's kind of interesting for the crypto space, right? Because you're seeing all these failures, and you're seeing a lot of recklessness from people that you wouldn't have expected recklessness. But at the same time, like it doesn't seem to be really that systemic. Like I think, even like some of these failures, I think sometimes are the consequence of something that was already happening. Like I don't think that the fact that 3AC or these guys or any of these other guys doing poorly is the cause for declines in crypto prices, right? Like I think this is just the natural, what we've been seeing for the last 6 months, right? Even longer. So
yeah, exactly. It's
I think
the cyclical nature of it.
3AC didn't cause Netflix stock and Coinbase stock to collapse, right? So like there's obviously clearly a broader trend against technology, the technology bubble that was started in 2020, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and like it may well it obviously did the decline due to macro and everything else, and cyclical nature of what we were involved with obviously triggered the kind of cascade that led to the demise or probable demise of Three Arrows.
Yeah,
like you say, it's not what's caused it, but it's a byproduct.
And it's also like these people's failures is this absolute recklessness, right? Because they've been under. You see, I can imagine people investing like pretty much tech stocks have given up all their gains from the March 2020 growth. Like from that COVID shock, right? And so like all the gains since then have been which been given up. But in crypto, like we'd have to go down another 50%, 70% to get back to what it was like even in the fall of 2020, right? Like when Bitcoin, I remember in the summer, Bitcoin was like 8,000, right? And Ethereum was like 300 to 500. Like I don't understand how you could like go bankrupt trading an asset that's like tripled in price in the last 2 years, right?
It's mad. It's like I mean, everyone knows that there's a lot of leverage in the system, but I think from my perspective as like an average idiot, I just assumed that was always like, oh, it's the people trading futures who are moronic and have no experience or no business trading futures with high leverage. But actually, like the leverage goes way deeper and it's way more complex or whatever. That it is surprising that's where the real dangerous use of leverage was. We've said it a few times, and I'm sure everyone who has this conversation says the same thing. Like you just felt that entities of that size that have got to that level of
risk management.
You assume that they're always smarter than us, and they're always practicing better risk management than we are, and they're not aping in like we do, and they're not extending themselves like we would. But it seems like they were just so convinced by their thesis on like whether they fully bought into super cycle or whether they really sort of that was like shop talk to a degree. They clearly thought that there was no chance of prices going down to where they were, because like from the data that's emerged now, it really seems that decline, that sharp decline from like $24,000 down to 20 in short shift was FTX and others forced liquidating 3AC. So that was the main liquidation event for Three Arrows Capital to begin with, that set them over the edge, was that decline from 24k to down to 20k. But yeah, it looks like, I don't know. Yeah, nobody's as smart as you think they are, I guess.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to know what was all going on. Like what was like there was like crazy exposure that everyone had to Luna that I think kind of made people think that they were hedging when they really weren't, right? But even then, you're like, it seemed always crazy to me to think about a 19% or whatever it was interest rate on a stable coin. I didn't really understand where that came from. Like, so it couldn't be safe. It's not safe, right? Like,
yeah. But then,
so, if you really want to be hedging, it's like just because it's denominated in the US dollar or pegged to something US dollar doesn't mean it is US dollar, right?
Yeah. But even if you like take Anchor and UST and stuff out of the equation, like the people that were using these centralized repositories for their Bitcoin or for their Ethereum, like I'll be honest, even I in the past have advocated for some people, not necessarily to seek the yield, but in terms of managing your own keys and everything, that's quite a lot for a lot of people. And like most of us have been around a fair while, so we've probably got pretty good practices in place for storing them keys and retrieving them keys. Whereas for the average new person, that can be a real challenge, and the safety of being able to retrieve your crypto later. Quite often, I've kind of, I wouldn't say put all your eggs in one basket, but I have advocated in the past for people to consider, like, instead of, if they're concerned about managing their own keys and losing access to their crypto in the future, spreading their risk across multiple centralized exchanges and other sort of places you can deposit crypto. It's always felt like a reasonably smart thing to do, because like if those companies are literally, they have one job, and that's the safe harbor of other people's crypto assets.
It's scary
in many cases it's kind of the better bet for people who have got no experience.
No, I agree. It's scary that the companies that were supposed to do this seem to be are not really putting together a great track record.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, there really does need to be proper, like traditional financial system accounts that are protected by
insurance,
some sort of deposit insurance and some sort of backstop, right? Like it's again, like in terms of the financial system, where crypto is not a huge percentage, right? So it's not like it's like some big systemic risk on the rest of the economy if people own some Bitcoin in their branch bank, right? And so it's weird to me that I don't know if it's a regulation thing. That's obviously, banks have huge concerns about money laundering and source of funds and these sorts of things, but it's weird that we're not opposed to it. And I think that's kind of all part of this, right? Like all the super cycle thing we talked about, and like whether the belief in that, like I think eventually, these assets are going to get to those values again. But it was pretty clear, I think, when we were kind of at the top, that the networks were becoming pretty much unusable. Like clearly there was no scaling. There was no way we could the fact that when price was going up, it actually seemed to make it harder for people to use, right? Because the cost of doing transactions was very high. And then, all the DeFi stuff that goes along with that, like people, that's why, presumably people were willing to pay these high transaction fees to use the network. It's when you see that, like it was just like a shell game, right? Like people were just moving pots of money to another pot of money to another pot of money. And each one was subsidized by more tokens that you could put onto another thing. And I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of lessons, obviously, in terms of like, what are we actually producing at economic value and some of this stuff. Yeah. I think we learned some things, but at the price, at the prices that they were at, it seems, the network was unusable and it was not clear what the yield was that people were getting out of using it.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be, eventually Ethereum has to be a payment system of some sort, right? And Bitcoin has to be some sort of, at least supporting some sort of ultimately payment system. I don't think we're there yet in terms of, I don't think there is any payment system anywhere. Like almost nothing is bought, sold with crypto. And so, right now we're building store values and building kind of base layers and stuff like that. That's an early stage of like the infrastructure component of what Web3 and crypto is. But until we have like actual e-commerce for that to support, then I think it's hard to like really have a really, it's hard to like believe that this is going to be the in the next few years, right? That there's going to be a huge push.
Yeah, there's like
I don't know.
a couple of things that you've said there that I kind of need to come back to. So the first one was in terms of some sort of insurance for centralized deposits of crypto. Like, if for that to come, I guess we're going to need more KYC, because if for companies to offer that kind of insurance, they're going to want to know who they're dealing with, and so
yeah.
I think we're going to see more widespread KYC, like a ubiquitous KYC, where you almost have no chance of interacting with some of these protocols unless you're willing to go full on docs. But then also, say I don't know what the FDIC guarantee is, Van, in America. Like for a bank account, what do you get? What insurance do you get on a, like, what is the limit? Is it like 80K or 60K or 100K or?
In the US, I think it's 100, or I think it's 100 here in Canada, but I think it's $100 US. And
I don't,
but it could be something anywhere between 100 and 200,000. I think is about what the coverage is.
The problem with crypto that you kind of alluded to is that stuff gets out of hand really quickly. So like, say you deposit like 50K and you're fine and you're covered in that, like one little burst of bull market frenzy, and you've got 500,000 in there that's not insured. So I think the numbers get crazy quick around here.
I agree.
And to go back to the US thing, it's 250K for US banks. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, ours isn't. I can't remember exactly where. I think ours used to be £80,000, which was like 100K, and I don't know if it's changed. Like, I don't. I'm not that rich. I don't have that much money in that many bank accounts. But
I think just the broader point would be, if we're going to have real centralized custody, like custodial solutions, whatever, then there should be like products to like not necessarily loss in terms of value of the currency or value of the crypto or something like that, right? But in terms of just like if the bank is holding your assets and they lose it somehow, then there's some insurance product so it'd be insurance maybe the bank would buy to cover their own holdings so they can pay out values to the But I think that's a future thing. But that's like just thinking about ways to like get people who are in retail actually have a safe option to hold this type of asset.
There are very few things in crypto that, like, places where you, like Coinbase, for example, people were in a frenzy and panic sharing the terms and conditions of using Coinbase a while ago, because they all suddenly worked out that if Coinbase goes into administration or liquidated, like customer funds aren't segregated because it's not a bank, and that was a surprise to a lot of people, which is weird to me.
Just a typical risk for a company. Everyone just focused on it.
But there are, I mean, I haven't read in depth, but I think stuff like USDC is like the funds are there, and if Circle, for example, and Coinbase did go out of business, I think USDC is kind of segregated, but I still don't know how that would work. But there are very few assets in crypto that really do have that kind of segregated customer funds thing, and maybe we need a bit more of that.
Definitely. I think there's the thing here is just talking about like that. That shouldn't be an issue at all, right? Like if you have your funds on some centralized thing, like you should expect that those funds actually are safe, right?
Yeah.
And I thought these I think like a lot of the sales pitches on these things are that they are fully collateralized too, right? I think a lot of people are surprised when they see that, like, maybe Celsius doesn't have enough money because they've been making bets with their clients' deposits, right? And like that's kind of, I think, probably should be some, I'm not a huge proponent of like saying there should be regulation for things, but like I can imagine that would be an area in which you could have sensible regulation in terms of, how do you manage that funds and how do you make sure that there isn't a bank run, or whether, you can act like a bank.
Yeah.
But again, this is all like decentralized things. Like again, like if you hold your own stuff, then, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You have other risks to worry about. But.
And I don't know, like, how do you guys do you have everything off the exchanges? Like for me personally, I've never trusted these exchanges. Just
neither.
What's happened in the past. I've always, had self custody and made sure I moved it over to a hardware wallet. But what are you guys doing with? I
have everything on a ledger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Quadriga was in Canada, right? Like it was a huge story. And when I started getting into crypto, there's no way I was going to trust some random exchange. So like I missed the whole, the one before, right? With the Mt. Gox.
Mm-hmm.
I missed all that, but definitely Quadriga like just scared me. Like they can just take your stuff.
Oh yeah. That's
what are you going to do?
Yeah. That's exactly
who wants
the one.
To litigate that.
Yeah, it was like Mt. Gox that I think that scared everyone, and even Coinbase, which probably seems very safe. I don't even trust that personally. I moved everything off of Coinbase.
Yeah, for me,
I don't understand what the value is. Well, what's the value unless you're trading? I don't trade super frequently, right? So like again, I don't need to have a ton of crypto on exchanges. If you're doing, I think, frequent trades, maybe the cost of the trading costs are so much lower than if you're using like Uniswap or something like that. But
like I always used to, when I first started crypto, I self custody everything, and if it used to be the case that if you wanted to store assets from a different chain, you had to literally download the entire, you download the QT wallet on your computer, you'd sync the entire blockchain, and then you'd pull the assets back onto your computer. So eventually, like when you started trading dozens of shitcoins at the same time, that started to become a real hassle. So then you did start to get a bit more lazy in terms of just leaving things on exchange. But what I used to do if I was doing that was like spread it across a few different exchanges. So if the most at risk I've ever been is having no self custody of anything I owned. But then when I was in that situation, I was always, it'd be spread across a handful of exchanges. So not all the eggs in one basket. And then if it at times where I was less interested in crypto, I would then like pull all the money back into wallets, like maybe sell everything I had into Bitcoin or whatever, and then withdraw that back to a wallet I managed the keys for. And by doing that, I did manage to swerve a few of the I should have lost money in the Finex hack, and I should have lost quite a lot of money in the Cryptsy hack, and like what happened with Cryptsy. But somehow I managed to dodge most of those over the years. The only one that I really got properly dinged by was the Cryptopia one, because I just got lazy. I had like too many bags distributed across too many wallets, and Cryptopia, I lost like a quarter of my capital, which was unfortunate. But I mean, in nominal terms now, it's not huge, but at the time that was pretty significant for me. But yeah, now I've got everything. Nothing
moved it over.
Yeah. Nothing is anywhere that I haven't got myself.
Well, what's great is I don't even trust myself, so I actually have multiple hardware wallets where I've had it. I actually spread it across hardware wallets just in case, for whatever reason, like one of them, I don't know, I mess up, or I make sure I keep the seed in a safe place, but still,
that's one area that most people, even most crypto native people, haven't really got covered is like the transfer of custody of assets if you were to pass away. Even people who are really anal about their key management and have got great backups and everything, a lot of those people haven't taken care of that yet. I think that's the new frontier, because a lot of us are getting older. A lot of us early crypto people are getting older, and
absolutely, yeah. No one in our group mentioned that recently. He said Trezor is great for that
because of the social key management kind of thing.
Exactly. So it's like two out of three people.
Yeah, like Vitalik is a real proponent of that. He talks about it a lot when you listen to podcasts with him. He'll bring it up quite frequently. Obviously, because he's imagine being him with however much he's got to his name, and you obviously it's hard enough now, but imagine if you had billions and you had to live with that live with that uncertainty of losing that access.
Yeah, you remember like the old stories. People go to the dump because their Bitcoin is on their old computer.
As an English guy who like tried to get the council to like dig up, like help make them search the things, he had like thousands of Bitcoin on this old computer and just in the trash, and they said no.
Every time there's a bit of a run in prices, that guy always pops up in the news again. He's like,
oh yeah, it's that guy and the pizza guy, right?
Yeah. Like I mean, I never really talk about it because it always sounds like I'm making the story up, but like I mined Bitcoin like super early, like I'm talking pre-Bitcoin talk, but I just it was at a point where you could mine solo blocks without a GPU, but it was so long ago, and I know for a fact that hard drive was wiped. Like I used to wipe. You like do this multi-pass sort of erasing of data because I don't know. I always used to be quite paranoid about loss of data and stuff. Loss of personal information if stuff got out. So yeah, I always used to just, as a matter of course, do this multi-pass wiping of data. So like the hard drive and the system and everything that I used to use back then when I first heard about Bitcoin, like before, I think I never assumed, I never thought it was going to get to the point it's got, obviously. So it's between doing that first mining and Silk Road even starting up, in the interim period, I completely lost interest in any of it and assumed it was going to be worthless. So I just it erased it. But like that was probably enough money to set us all for life. But
I wonder, like, yeah, I know. Okay, right. But I wonder, like, that you said that point, right? Like, you lost interest. Like, it's only been 12, 13 years, this whole run, right? But then people talk about like it's like ancient times.
Yeah.
I entered grad school before Bitcoin existed, right? Like it's not that far away from, in the span of my life. But then everyone that's in it, like, and I guess I feel it now, like I was saying before at the beginning, like in the first 24 months, like how much longer time is in this industry. It just feels, it truly does drain people. Like the people that have been here for 10 years, like it's just to be able to just even survive through that seems kind of superhuman to me.
That's why everyone's such jaded old fucks. Like.
Yeah, but it is wild. It is wild to see, because it's kind of funny to see. Like, I don't know, like we want to move on to like the NFT type talking, but like how young NFTs are still, and like the way people who won't, been only a few years, and that's like some old crusty OG, and I don't know, just it's funny to me, like the time scale is so short. Like I can imagine any other technology in which like it even the iPhone took like 5-7 years for people to become ubiquitous, right? Like I owned a Palm Pilot in like 2012, 2013. Yeah, exactly. Right? That's 6 years after the first iPhone. Like that was an alternative. Yeah. The iPhone, and people would buy iPod Touches instead of the phone. Right, like it was like, and that was like well into like 2014, 2015.
Yeah, and even the iPhone was an evolution of like I had the HTC, like the Pocket PC stuff a few years before the iPhone came out.
Yeah.
I remember when the iPhone came out, I was like, "Hey, fucking hipsters!" Like I've had a touchscreen device for ages, kind of thing. But
even something else, so you think would be so as much utility as the iPhone had, like just the amount of stuff that has to get built around any sort of technology before it becomes really useful. So I think with like, with NFTs right now, we just have art, which I think you don't need as many things to make it useful, but it's, in the same breath, like display technology is just absolute garbage. And it's just hard to know, like, just because someone just made something, like why this should, like, I think we're still in the case right now where we look at NFTs and we see like, okay, your stuff made 2-3 years ago, that's important and old. without really thinking actually about any real context or actually why something would be worth keeping or worth not, or whether it's good or bad art, right? And so like we're still not even close to like having any of the context or any of like the supporting technologies or any of the other things that would make this something actually big, which we, everyone thinks that it will become. But but at the same time, like you get this impatience, right? You can feel this impatience with people, like everyone should just know that this is big. Why are we waiting?
Yeah, and like it's
like, why is there so much a negative response to it?
With Bitcoin as well, like you get new people that come to crypto, and it's almost like the attitude of the freshest participants to Bitcoin is like, oh, that's old technology. Like almost like they'll overlook it entirely because they assume it must be old hat. And maybe the same thing will happen with NFTs, that people who join in the next year or two to come, the stuff that we think significant, they're just going to look at and be like, no, that's fucking dinosaur shit. Like, I'm not interested in that at all.
I actually do think a lot of that, like there's people that believe that I think everything old will be valuable. I'm not one of those people. I think a select few. I think even if you were to go to like impressionist paintings and just look at people, like most people can just name Monet or something like that, but like there's probably a bunch of other guys that no one's ever heard of. And I'm sure that there's paintings out there that you can find. Like I'm sure it's still valuable in some like set, nominal sense, but nothing close to like the top, what the top works are, right? So I think that you're going to have the same thing. There's going to be a few pieces that are going to be really important, and they're going to obviously define kind of the future evolution of crypto art, or maybe define future evolution of generative art or other sorts of digital artists. But I think most is probably going to be forgotten. It's going to be things that people will have to sit on for 50 years, 60 years before people rewrite a new narrative about them. The problem is that things don't get lost, right? So, well, I guess they do, but like, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out too. But it's hard to know if something's truly lost. So like with crypto, it's hard to know that if something's just going to pop out of nowhere, a wallet's going to wake up with 50 punks and dump it on everyone, right?
I think something you reminded me there of something you tweeted maybe a few days ago or yesterday or the day before about if Warhol was an NFT artist now, he would be pulled off OpenSea for like DMCA or whatever.
It's funny because he was sued, right? So he clearly would have been. Like he's gone through lawsuits. The Marilyn Monroe stuff has been sued about whether he had the right to use that image, right? And like it's not like he's just. It's not like art. There's a lot of artists, and I think if we talk to like Yuri, right, like a lot of collage artists have difficulty. These laws are weird, and I don't think they're just purely digital. But I agree, it's kind of weird, like how we can kind of get over it for some people, and for other people, we apply these blanket rules. And so OpenSea just applies these blanket rules. I think they're just averse to any sort of legal issues. But yeah, I think it's funny.
Like I don't know my art history well enough. That's not my background. So it was Warhol as important as he thought of now? Was he thought of?
I think he was definitely. I'm not like an expert either on history, but I think definitely Warhol was celebrated in his time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like after his death. He was a celebrity artist.
Yeah,
because like there's like a
celebrity
for like I don't know. I remember like Jobs had him play around with paint on the Apple IIe when it first came out. They had a little paint program.
Yeah.
So it has like a little digital art piece or whatever.
Okay. It probably brings us nicely onto art block stuff. We can't not talk about it. I'm just gonna flip screens so that the viewers can see what we're looking at. Oh shit! Hang on, that's not. There we go. One sec. Here we go. Cool. Bosh. So yeah, I mean, Zinc, maybe talk us through what you're seeing here. But we were just talking about it before we came on, and we decided to cut the discussion short so that we could do it again here.
Yeah, so I think one of the big questions about I think a lot of NFT stuff is how the price in ETH is response to how its price in ETH responds to the price of ETH, right? So there's a lot of, when things go up, when price of ETH goes up, people don't expect NFTs necessarily to go up, because the US dollar value is going up. But definitely a few projects have really benefited from the $1,000, $1,200 ETH, and art blocks in general, I think has quite a bit. And so we're seeing kind of, even with really suppressed price of ETH, we're seeing really, we're seeing pretty decent volume in terms of USD. And I think this month of June, it's not even out yet. It's pretty much the same amount of volume as what we saw in July last year before the huge run up. And this is following months of almost everything being dead. Even art blocks died generally much before we were seeing Azuki pump and all these PFPs in January and February pump, and art blocks at the time was pretty much dead during that period. And but now with, I think, low price of ETH, and I think also the recognition that the longer stuff that's going to last, more safe bet in terms of NFTs is art blocks. And we've talked about this before too, a lot of times, where art blocks has many PFP elements to it, and then it's a unified collection. There's editions, there's rarities, there's, it's easier to evaluate in the context of all the other pieces involved, right? Just how you would evaluate a punk or a Bored Ape in terms of their traits. Whereas a one-on-one is really hard to necessarily evaluate on a one piece of art, even amongst other pieces by the same artist, right? Because there's just so few of them. And so I think people notice that and okay, well, of the kind of PFP-esque type projects, art blocks is probably one of the safest bets. And so we're seeing this again, a huge amount of volumes, and then floors in terms of all the projects are going up. They're still low compared to their all-time highs or even USD prices a few months ago. But you have almost 10 ETH squiggles. We have new projects like Memories of Killing, closing in on 10 ETH as well. Then we're seeing 100 ETH fit ends a sale today. We're seeing ringers sell. We're seeing archetypes sell. So yeah, it's kind of exciting. And I'm not saying that necessarily we'll see a July that looks like last August, but it's definitely one of the one pieces that's kind of heated up. So whether this is sustainable or in the light of all the other macro, but in general, art does well even in recessions. So I can think again, art blocks, it's one of these really safe places to collect if you were still think NFTs are kind of really undervalued. And I think it's just easier now for people to put in USD directly and not necessarily buy the ETH, but buy the NFT, right? Before you had to think about the trade-off between the NFT and the ETH. Mm-hmm. So it's mostly crypto people deciding whether they want to use their NFT, buy an NFT or hold on to ETH. And I think now we're seeing, I don't know exactly, it's impossible to tell, but I would be less surprised on this to see that it's people actually pulling money USD out of their accounts and buying the art directly. They just converting it from the USD, because the USD prices for a lot of this stuff is under $1,000 for still a ton of things, right?
Yeah, it looks. I mean, if you were to just look at this data on face value, you might assume that the volume ticked up once there was some clarity on the stuff we talked about at the top of the show, the 3AC stuff, and once it looked apparent that Alameda had stepped in and started backstopping things, then let's start buying NFTs. But actually, it was a week or two before any of that really started to bottom out or looked like it was bottoming out. The volume of art block sales had already started to pick up, and I think it's like you said, people were looking at USD values and saying, "Wow, this stuff's so cheap now." And I mean, to the man on the street, $1,000, $2,000 NFT isn't cheap, but we know as natives that's a $50K NFT 6 months ago, and now you can buy it for a few grand. So it took a second for the ETH prices to readjust. People weren't changing listings, so there was a window of opportunity that was a 10-day period where the prices were just really, really cheap.
100%.
Yeah, we talked about it in a previous pod how cheap squiggles were, right? It was like 50 or like 5K for a bit. Yeah.
And the thing is, I think even from the outside, not necessarily crypto people, like thinking about what, like many of these pieces have been, like the sets have been featured in, Christie's and Sotheby's auctions. And at really, they have to deal with pace now, and like exhibit like the Venus, I don't know the whole word, but there's the whole squiggle tour, right? And then like this stuff is like in high end art circles already, right? And these artists are getting recognized in these kind of more elite art circles, and $3,000 for a piece from someone that has had their work sold for $100,000 at Christie's at some point, even if you don't think that was the right valuation at the time, like that stuff sticks. And it's really hard to because $3,000 for a piece of art actually isn't a lot of money, right? Use what you would buy, what you would pay for a decent painting in whatever local gallery that you're at, right? Like, it's like $1,000 for a piece of art is totally reasonable expenditure for most people, I think, that buy art.
Yeah, you can.
Like a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, you can walk into a gallery and just pick up like a bit of street art from someone relatively unknown and spend that kind of money.
Yeah, there are coffee shops in like around where I am that have that. Coffee shops sell art, and the typical price for this art are like $500 to $1,000, sometimes $3,000. And it's like, this is stuff that no one's heard of the artist before. It's a very local artist, and they don't have a huge following, and maybe it's Canadian too. So our prices in Canada are much lower than what you'd see in the US or an international stage. And then you look at like what, you have someone that's, actually, internationally known and not necessarily famous or anything, but still like featured in an important gallery or featured in important. I feel like the prices for these things sometimes are getting they have been a little low, right? And so that's what people are starting to pick up on. They're like, this is museum quality art in a lot of cases. And so, it is kind of, I think there is interesting to watch. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like there is still a disconnect, right? In terms of like what people are willing to pay for NFTs and in terms of, so like you think about like the with Hearst and the physicals versus the NFT thing, right? And like huge disconnect in the prices there. So it's just interesting to see like the traditional world has no idea really what the right price is for things in the NFT world, and they don't really seem to have the ability to go and arbitrage that. And then the NFT world seems to have no interest in the traditional art world for the most part. And so then they don't really understand what like the prices of good art should or shouldn't be. And they price everything in terms of ETH. So it is interesting to see these kind of worlds kind of separate still, right?
Right. Last year seemed to be a lot about everyone jostling for position for stuff that they were eventually hoping to sell to traditional art buyers. Like that was part of the game last year. And then that kind of didn't play out how people hoped and because everything got overheated. But some of that must be going on. And over time, the trad art people must be starting to notice that like it's maybe slowly at first and then all at once later on, but like this stuff keeps coming back. Like NFTs are dead. Oh no, they're not. NFTs are dead. Oh no, they're not. And like with this volume spike that you mentioned in the last month or so, like looking at the chart on the screen now, if that was like a normal, like if that was a fungible token of some description and you had that long decline in volume, that's like, and then you suddenly saw this impulse like this
is buy.
You'd be like excited, like that's either a bottom signal or that's a signal of like, the demand has kicked in. So it shouldn't be any different for NFTs. And I mean, whether traditional art people are completely aware of that kind of stuff, like the fact it keeps coming back and not dying, and like you say, the quality of the art, like over time, I think more and more of that market will start to come around to the idea of ownership of some of this stuff, just to have skin in the game.
And I think again, I think we survived that viability test. Like I think there's always like periods in crypto where things are like existential. I think like remember in June before all this, when the NFTs were dead, stuff really came in. Like that felt existentially bad. That felt like maybe this really won't work. Like I didn't believe it, but like I think a lot of people did. And I think like you still had that back in your mind, like, okay, well, if we don't get through this, because there was that little bump and like back, obviously these numbers are tiny compared to what we saw later. But if you zoom in on like February, March, April, February, March, April, it felt, like NFTs are really coming. Punks were like getting traded for thousands of dollars, right? And it's like, this is a real thing. And then it just died in May and June. And then there's the memes and everyone was just dancing on the NFT graves. And you felt like, it's like, this isn't going to work. Like there's an existential aspect to this, decline. And then it came back. And so then the second dive, it's like, this seems more responsible. It's like, no one should have been spending what they were spending in August on punks or on art blocks or anything that they bought. Like people were buying stuff for like millions of dollars, and it's not clear. There was the history to justify those prices, but it didn't fall so far that it's like truly dead. And there was always pockets somewhere that was kind of keeping things alive. So, even as maybe art died in the fall, we saw, the resurgence of some PFP stuff, and then PFPs have kind of died. And now we're seeing the resurgence of art and punks and historical stuff, right? So it feels like this is like a real thing. And so now I feel like we can like just expect some like healthy growth over the next few years, where people like kind of aren't going to be chased away from it, but people maybe will be tentative and they're not going to go do the same crazy stuff. And they have like I've mentioned the Fidenzas was like up 1,000%, or no, it's up 1,000 times in 2 months. Like that's obviously absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, these things are like, I don't know. I just feel much more confident about this downturn than one before. It feels more real. And then you're seeing like traditional companies treating NFTs as the actual technology for tokenizing or authenticating or owning digital art and digital items. And like everyone, eBay just bought known origin, right? Like we have like GTA talking about getting crypto rewards and some play to earn type thing. Like, these are huge, right? Like,
Fidelity. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some major companies that are entering the space.
What are your thoughts on that eBay known origin acquisition? That was unexpected.
Yeah, a little bit, but like it's one of those things where I wouldn't like. If you look at like the volume, eBay still like it seems like a dinosaur company, right? But like the volume they do makes anything, the entire digital asset space look tiny, right? Like I can look this up. Probably they have some crazy numbers. So
yeah, I would guess they make a lot of their money from kind of these collectible type items.
Oh, 100%. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it almost like fits into their wheelhouse. And that's probably what they were thinking when, they wanted to get their foot into the, NFT space.
Yeah. There's 20 billion in merchandise volume per quarter. Like last quarter, they did 20 billion, 19.4.
Yeah, like you say, it seems to fit with how they it's online retail, it's auction based. There's a lot of stuff that they're used to doing and they know how to do well at and optimize for. But then in the last month or so, they've had they've dipped their toes because they did a thing with one of, and they're still doing that stuff. So one of is it's like I can't think like a proprietary NFT platform. It started on Tezos, but now I think they're using Polygon and other stuff as well. They launched with the Doja Cat NFTs, but so they've got a bunch of music artists and a bunch of sports artists. Anyway, the point is they have it was like, was it a baseball team? My brain's completely purged the info already, but a few weeks ago, they did their first NFT sales on eBay. I tried to buy one of these NFTs. It was in association with one of, but the experience was painful. And even though I've got an eBay account and I've got a PayPal account, I'm fully verified. Like, I don't have any issues normally. I couldn't check out. I couldn't follow the eBay procedure to check out. And I think the same must still be happening because right now there's some Muhammad Ali NFTs through one of, and most of those were sold through eBay. And when I checked the one of website the other day, they're having to sell some specifically on that site because I guess for people who couldn't check out through eBay. So I feel like maybe eBay they were probably progressing the known origin thing anyway. But I think one of the things that probably accelerated it was them trying to shoehorn NFT sales into the existing eBay platform and finding out that really wasn't as viable as they thought it was, because they probably got lots of people that have my problem, lots of people that wanted to check out with crypto and everything else. So like maybe one of the easiest ways for them to advance their technical understanding of how this all should work quickly was to take known origin and take the team. So I guess I kind of wanted to ask, do you think it's that? Is it like a team and talent thing, or is it do they just want skin in the game themselves, so they just bought one of their leading that's I'm not quite sure.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, I think that totally makes sense, that they'd want to hire, they're acquiring this company and they're going to have the ability to retain a lot of these employees. And, they're bringing in a lot of experience in the Web3 space. So yeah, that totally makes sense. And a lot of companies do that. And, maybe all these mistakes that you've mentioned, in their past offerings, just made them realize it much sooner.
I mean, they did it with PayPal, right? Like people used PayPal, became so ubiquitous in terms of checkout on eBay that eBay just bought PayPal. So I guess they have a history of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably one of the best acquisitions, right? From a company synergy standpoint.
But also, I think we're still at the stage where the majority of NFT buyers are crypto people. And so it's still a stretch. It's still hard to convince people from the outside to come in very cold.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't have I think this is the issue, that if you have if they have an NFT system that is very, Web 2 and that word, I don't necessarily like that terminology, but it's not going to attract NFT buyers who are already buyers, right? Because it's just, people just don't trust it in general. I feel like I don't really own an NFT that I use PayPal to buy. It doesn't really feel right. I feel like you want to get out, interact directly with a smart contract, which is probably not the way it's going to be in the future. But you kind of have that feeling. But as we are at that point, if you don't have a nice Web3 experience, you're not going to be able to bring in the Web3 type buyers. And that probably is a huge chunk of your current revenue, whatever you're doing. And so if you don't have that, if you don't have that, you can build all the rest of it and try to convince people from the outside to come in as well, easier. Maybe that, that's a longer 5-year plan or something. But in the interim, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to know what their whole strategy is, but
I think you're right. I think not just in terms of wanting to attract the volume from us crypto idiots, but also that when new people come in, because it's also new and because they don't understand it, those new participants look to the existing market to figure out what's important. So they need us to show up so that the other people know that they're relevant and significant. Otherwise new participants just won't be interested. They'll focus on OpenSea, Superrare, wherever else the volume is going.
But it's hard to know. Is this outside of OpenSea? It's not been a great history of marketplaces doing well. Maybe KO is one of the few because they're early and they have such an art focus. They have people minting on that site, but other than OpenSea, it's just Coinbase has not been able to get any traction. Looks rare, still not much traction at all.
Mm-hmm.
All the other ones, there's people who have these specialty marketplaces. It's really hard to you think that there should be some interest, but I think the system is still so much dominated by flippers and people who want to advertise where people are looking, right? And OpenSea just dominates that. Just very hard to break that cycle.
Yeah, and users have when you're a user of OpenSea, there's so much stickiness to the product that when there's volume on OpenSea, you're not going to want to go to any other site and use and cross your fingers and hope that you get a sell from the random person that happens to be on that site.
Even worse, man, I don't want to have ArtBlock is all in one contract, right? So then. Mm-hmm. When I'm going to list a few ArtBlocks pieces on 5 different sites so that I have approvals on all 5, and I don't know what's going to get hacked or what's going to You know, I mean, I don't like even having even OpenSea's like bad enough to like have it just by that self-approved, right? And I've had stressful moments. Like there was that OpenSea hack. I remember people were stealing the old listings and stuff like that, and you're like, everyone was rushing to the revoke site that crashed it. It's like it was in December or something like that. Like just like the scary days of, like, your whole collection could get wiped out, right? Just because you have an approval open on a marketplace. And all these new marketplaces, you don't know. Like at least OpenSea's contract's been around, right? And at least they get stress tested in that, like, the first place is going to get hacked. It's going to be people. The first place people are going to try to hack is going to be OpenSea, right? That's where everyone is. But like, if a random small niche marketplace put things up for sale for that, then you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, there is that risk, and yeah, it's hard to, if you're listing on all these different marketplaces, you're going to end up forgetting that you listed something on one, and all of a sudden the project moves and you're left, SOL. Like
that used to be my strategy in like March 2020. Was browse the like, because it was had a horrible sorting function on Rareable. So you'd browse by oldest, and you'd search through, and like people had listed stuff from like 2 years ago is open-ended for nothing, that no one knew that listing existed. Scoop.
No, I remember that period. Yeah, it's like treasure hunting, except their UI is so terrible. So you just get frustrated at a certain point, and you're just like, maybe it's not worth it. But
well, that's what makes it worth it, because no one else is going to do it.
no one wants to go through that trouble. And the reason that all those old listings were there is because it's frustrating to kind of cancel these listings on their site.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or you don't even, half the time you don't even know it was even listed.
Yeah, we didn't have that revoke site back then either.
No. Yeah, it's so funny.
And the other, whilst we're on the topic of marketplaces, the other thing that's been in the news in the last week or so is the Gucci Superrare thing, where Gucci acquired like 25k of Superrare DAO tokens, which doesn't sound like a lot of money. It isn't a lot of money in the scheme of things, but it's an interesting one. Do you guys see that?
No, I didn't see that at all, actually.
I just literally pulled up an article. Hang on, let me see if I can find the actual article for the viewers as well.
That seems like a very small amount for a company like Gucci.
Is it 20? What's the Superrare token cost now? Like 25 cents or something?
It's not as much as it was.
I felt bad for everyone who didn't sell immediately. You had to know. Like every governance token in the world goes straight to zero, right?
Yeah. So Italian luxury brand Gucci venturing into Web3. Acquired 25k of rare tokens to join the Superrare DAO, but they seem to have like an end game in mind, which is some kind of drop relating. So there's going to be a Gucci Superrare drop to come. Yeah,
next 100 years of Gucci collection.
Yeah.
Walmart space Gucci.com. Yeah, and Gucci has done a few drops in the past, right? I feel like I remember seeing something a while back.
I think maybe this mentioned they did something in February. There we go. Like they did like a super plastic drop.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. But aren't they involved in the 10K FT or whatever?
Yeah, that Beeple thing. Yeah,
Beeple thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that. I don't think that did very well. I actually bought that and I sold it immediately after seeing what it was. Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah. The little outfit for your PFP.
Yeah, it's like clothing for your PFP, which is
that's either exciting or it's a local top when Gucci tweet out GM. But that was that. I mean, look at that. The date of that was the 21st of January. That must have been the local top for NFTs.
Oh yeah.
Okay. The other.
Yeah, it was when Azuki was blown up.
The other. So a couple of people are saying stuff in the chat, asking questions. Maybe we'll come to that in a minute. I feel like we should touch on the Bored Ape Yacht Club Ryder Ips stuff quickly because it's been in the news. if you're uninformed, maybe you're not. I don't know how you've avoided this up till now. For a while, there's an artist. I don't know how you describe him. Like a
artist is fine, I guess.
Yeah,
but he's been he's loud.
A loud and controversial artist, Ryder Rips. He's had a website for a while, for a few months. There's been this website published with a bunch of kind of conspiratorial thread hunting around Bored Ape Yacht Club and whether there's any links to alt-right and 4chan and Nazi party references and things like that. And like, I'd kind of read the site. Had you guys seen the website before this video came out?
Yeah, I think I saw that. I've seen pieces. I don't think I've ever seen the website, and I have definitely not watched the video, but I've seen like people talk about this constantly for the past how many weeks it's been.
Yeah, and I'd seen it as well, and I think a lot of us had kind of dismissed a lot of it because it seemed a bit far-fetched. But then the video, like, I don't recommend watching it necessarily as you should check this out because it's compelling, but it is compelling in as much as the video format makes it feel much more like it could be true, or there could be some merit to it. Like, it's the same with anything, right? You do 9/11 conspiracies, or you do anything else, chemtrails. Once you put it into that video format, we're pretty simple creatures, and that it just makes it seem much more real. It's like, so yeah, I do recommend watching the video just to make sure you've got like a sense of why everyone's talking. But the video is pretty much just the website in visual form. So yeah, go on. How do you feel about it all?
Well, it feels like a huge stretch. I've seen like some of the claims that keep on getting made in terms of like his name, and somehow that's supposed to make it like the Smurfs or somehow this like secret racist thing, right? And that seems like a huge stretch. Like the Smurfs still exist. Like it's not like I feel like if that was the case, then they would have gone away a long time ago, way before Bored Apes.
Yeah, no one catches the Smurfs.
yeah, I know that's a problem with the Smurfs, right? They still get movies. So like, I don't know. That seems a stretch. And then I think like a lot of the trait stuff seems like a stretch. Like, I think definitely the logo thing is a huge stretch. Like they focus on this like 18 teeth thing.
Yeah, it's like that's the
seems so odd. But it's
the crest layout or patch layout. It's like one of the most common layouts you could possibly design.
Yeah, you saw how like Panda Express uses that same one too.
Skulls are probably the most like overused crypto.
Oh yeah,
meme.
Yeah,
probably,
exactly.
Right, as well. So I don't know. It's just I don't know why it gets as much attention as it does, right? I think maybe it's just an easy target, but I agree with you. Like with these conspiratorial videos, they're designed to kind of evoke a lot of emotions and make it seem like. But I've just been so inundated with them over the past like 5 years. Like YouTube has gotten worse and worse and worse with every imaginable conspiracy, and you watch them all. They're all the same sort of thing, right? You can like, flat earth stuff. There's like a bunch of alien stuff with like the purses, like a million, like, the reptile theaters kind of thing. Like all this stuff get the same treatment. It's the same video format, right? Every single time.
It is.
So it's just like exhausting to like want to even interact with it, right? Like
yeah, it's
frustrated.
It's the same people that fall for him also.
Probably.
We know exactly the reason why this video exists, though. Like we see the intention, like it's the grift.
Yeah.
Like he ended up, creating his own project and made a bunch of money off of it. So yeah.
It's weird with apes, right? Because they've had involved. Was he involved with the flipped apes too? I know they were involved with like promoting them a lot and promoting the flip punk. So it's the same, thing every single time, right? Like, I don't know. This stuff is all going to kind of exist. I think like when you're going to claim that someone is like a secret Nazi, like to what aim too? I didn't really understand. Like what's the what's the purpose?
Like if you can take anything from the video and the quote unquote evidence that's presented, they clearly have an awareness of internet culture, crypto culture, 4chan culture. So I don't know, it maybe isn't a complete stretch to say that some of it's a bit of a troll or a little bit of a nod to to that.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any evidence at all that any of them are like racist or alt-right or Combat 18 or anything else. But
a lot of, like, how many Peppy memes are 4chan? Right? Like I think it's the same sort of argument you can make against Pepe, right?
Yeah, there's a section
because
there's a section in the video where they talk about Pepe and 4chan, and they almost try to suggest that in itself is like a cult and a religion, and it's like, well, no, that's just how internet culture evolves.
That's the other thing too. I don't know, like I know 4chan has like definitely evolved, because almost everything almost all online free spaces seem to have moved extremely to the alt-right, right? Like that's been the trend. But like kind of growing up when you in high school, when you had things like 4chan and these sorts of things, like it was kind of a hodgepodge of everything. It's kind of like how Reddit used to be at the beginning, right? Just kind of a hodgepodge of all sorts of things. And of course, like certain voices become louder, but it's hard to like say like, you know, if you like take a nod to some 4chan culture that you're necessarily, you know, agreeing with some like Nazi propaganda or something like that. Like that also doesn't make any sense to me.
No, exactly. Like I'll share this thread in the show notes. But there's quite a good thread where a perfectly rational human being watches the thing and live tweets it, and he basically like says exactly what you just said, that like, yeah, 4chan has got like a seam of that to it, but also like some of the people that I know that have been long time 4chan natives, they're some of the most left leaning people that I know as well. Like it's and yeah, you can find alt-right threads on Reddit.
Yeah, isn't the whole anonymous stuff originally kind of a 4chan? It must have come out of that as well.
Exactly. This thread's quite good.
Anyways,
he kind of like go on.
But what's the end game? Like, suppose you're these guys and you like make this thing. Like, what would be the purpose? Like it's a successful project now. Like what? Like so? Like they can't do what they wanted to do before. Like because they're definitely gonna not be, if they are Nazis or whatever, they're not gonna be Nazis now, right? Like they don't want to tank the project, so maybe they like shoot themselves in the foot. Like I don't understand what the goal here was. Like in the first place.
One of the most logical explanations for it seems to be like they're super familiar with 4chan culture, internet culture, crypto culture. They're launching a project that they didn't necessarily think was going to blow up in the way it did, and what they needed to do was sell out their NFT projects, and a lot of projects launch and don't sell out. So maybe it was as simple as, okay, we know that there's a seam of people that will get these references if we include enough in jokes, people will just want them. So maybe they were just looking for an audience, like a pre-built audience to sell their collection to.
Yeah, I actually don't even think really there needs to be that much defense of the Bored Apes guys, right? Because I feel like the claims being made against them are just so crazy, like not crazy, but like just out there, that I think you need to have a lot more than these kind of loose, you know, collection of odd facts, right? That aren't necessarily facts, right? They're just illusions. A lot of this seems like an argument from some sort of we'll point you half the way, then we'll make some scary music, and then you'll jump the rest of the way to the crazy conclusion, right? And so I feel like if these guys were really like Nazis, then it would have come out.
Some of the things on the video were very laughable. Like it's like you remove the zero here, and you remove the zero, and it makes a year where a Nazi, a Nazi guy was like imprisoned, or it's like such a stretch.
Yeah, I don't know. Like again, like I don't want to like. I'm not going to go way out on a limb to defend the Bored Ape guys, right? Like they can defend themselves, I guess. But like, I just find this kind of conspiratorial thinking. It's not really productive ever in any ever case, right? And it's just you know that your case is weak, and so then you're trying to use rhetoric and you use other techniques in order to bolster it, and so then that's just dishonest, right? And so then it's not. I don't understand why people put up. Why people like spend time worrying about like I just a lot of these conspiracy things are all the same like that. Like the person doing the conspiracy thing they know that they're being dishonest at some point. They know that they're trying to like oversell something that's, you know, very flimsy because they have a belief, right? Or they have obviously just some sort of agenda, but, you know, so then they're like, okay, well, I don't need to convince people. I need to trick people. And so I find that kind of, you know, I don't really find that really convincing at all. And I think it can destroy your credibility.
Yeah, exactly. You see one absolutely ludicrous claim, like the one of the things in the video is about Aperol, and how that was like one of the answers to one of their cryptographic puzzles that they did a while back was the liqueur or whatever it is, Aperol, and they tried to, because it's vaguely red in color, even though it's orange, that was a nod to the red pilling of. So it's all crazy.
What?
Honestly,
what?
Exactly.
Yeah,
this is why I'm saying. I watched the video because it's hilarious.
Yeah. Like, I watched it, but I must have missed that part. I mean, that's just insane.
And as you said, you discount anything that might have had any merit. You completely discount at that moment if you're a rational, sane thinker, because like you say, they're stretching and reaching just to try and hoodwink people or fool people. I mean, it's also worth saying, just for the sake of completeness, that Yuga have filed some kind of lawsuit against them now as well. But I did you guys read that at all? Like, I had a quick flick through, and I'm not legally minded.
Yeah, I didn't read it, but yeah, basically, I saw that they had done.
A lot of it's just around passing off like trademark stuff. Like, there's not very much about the actual allegations in the suit that I read, but there's a section on it. I don't know how much bearing it has, but it's not like a defamation suit or anything. It's more like a trademark suit that they've filed.
I don't know. It's like, I don't know to what extent, like, I guess you have to defend these things. I'm not a lawyer, so
no. That's exactly.
Someone got advice.
That's how trademark law works, right? It's you have to actively defend your trademark, otherwise, like, that's how it becomes a trademark. That's how you cement it as like IP that you're allowed to defend, because you consistently defend it, and then when it comes to defending it in court, you have a track record of defending the IP. So then it's sort of they have to do it. It's like they're forced to do it.
Yeah, and Ryder's gonna be giving all that money he made on the in legal fees pretty soon.
I don't know. It seems the whole thing seems so bizarre and such a sideshow.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. We'll see. Somehow it doesn't hurt the apes, really.
No,
it doesn't.
It's 94. So,
have you guys got?
I don't know. Where do you guys see that?
I don't know if you've got apes.
No, I just have one other side land. One plot of other side.
I have a. I don't even have full. Yeah, I have a coda left. Yeah, they had some announcement that something's like a preview's coming pretty soon, so they pumped a little bit the past day or so.
Yeah, I don't have a huge hope on this. Like, it seems like they're building pretty fast, and to what end? Maybe this technology that I saw they were showing off earlier is going to really deliver, but I don't know what the game is. Run around.
I'm not sure either.
I'm not doing that.
I don't know. With a lot of these things, if it's like a time commitment, that's usually the point where I'm out. I just don't have that time.
Yeah, I haven't stepped into Centerland in months, and I don't even know if we can use our sandbox plots yet.
The sand token itself had a bit of a pump the last few days, but like a lot of these altcoin pumps where they've kind of done a 50% or 70% move, it was like they're absolutely so wrecked that was inevitable eventually with a lot of them.
Is it still just over $1?
I'd have to check. I would have to check. Whilst we're on the subject of PFPs, obviously NFT NYC was last week, and you had a couple of announcements through that. I think that's probably why the Gucci announcement was timed for that as well. But you had the Doodles Pharrell thing. That's quite interesting. And so for everyone else's benefit, Doodles, I take it it's like a higher Pharrell Williams obviously famous music producer, hip hop artist, R&B artist, has been announced as chief brand officer for Doodles.
Yeah, I think he got a board seat also.
Okay, what do you make of that?
I think it makes sense. He's got like that positive vibes attitude, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of.
I don't really see Doodles as I don't see them as like a hip hop or like type thing, but like, yeah, I feel, or an R&B type thing. Like that doesn't seem that part doesn't vibe, but I think his personality and like his kind of positive kind of message type he's always smiling, right? So seems like a Doodles fit in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what they're going to do. Like what's the brand thing? Are they going to make t-shirts or something? Like, I don't really get it.
Yeah.
What's the next step for these PFPs?
I think they're trying to onboard just, millions of people. So the next, whatever, Doodles 2 is going to be a very large size, and it has to do with, so they had the airdrop, the duplicator. So I think it's something to do with the original Doodles. You can use the traits from those, and along with the duplicator, you can create these.
Oh, and sell them to the masses.
Exactly. I think you get a share of the revenue.
Yeah, it's something that you go back a month or two ago to some of the first pods we did together, and you guys talked about it then in terms of these collections being too small for mass market, and what you need is a broader mass appeal and mass sold thing. And with Doodles 2, perhaps that's what they're trying to do, is a collection. I think it's non-Ethereum based as well, what they're planning to do.
It's on Flow.
Okay, it's on Flow. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like they're former Flow guys, right? Or former, not Flow guys, but
Dapper Labs.
like isn't Poopy's Dapper? Yeah, used to work.
Yeah, they have connections. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's a play on a collection that you can sell in much, much, much larger quantities, or make available in much larger quantities than 10K. Or
I think they just said. They said 1 million was the number, I'm pretty sure, for the Doodles 2.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's like extremely good. Yeah, in terms of like what do new holders get? I don't know. Like, is it like are they going to use trading card game or something like that? Like, I think at some level there has to be a product on the other end that people want to just consume, not necessarily hold for keepsake's sake.
Mm-hmm. I think some of the play is also to create a brand out of it, with Pharrell, and he's going to release a music album with the Doodles branding. So yeah, I think they're getting the name out there with at least Pharrell's help, and might be able to go mainstream. And if that happens, yeah, who knows? Yeah,
we got the quote here from Pharrell is, "I'm a big fan of the brand, and we're going to build from the core community outward and bring Doodles to new heights, new levels." And like you say, there's an album coming out, Doodles Volume 1, produced by Pharrell, coming out on Columbia Records. So it's a real deal music project, and that'll be really interesting to see.
And Pharrell makes great music, so it's gonna be interesting to see.
There's I saw a discussion on Twitter a week or two ago with some more traditional crypto Twitter centric people, but talking about so like the band Gorillaz, which was kind of the first avatar-based music act. So you had Damon Albarn from Blur, the British rock band, and so Gorillaz were like almost like a proof of concept for a successful global music artist that's purely based on kind of cartoon characters / avatars. And with NFTs, it seems the perfect fit that some of these, where people are trying to build stories and personas around their profile pic and their NFT, you can really see like a Doodles based band, or like maybe whether it'll be go on.
Universal already has this, right? Not like in terms of, I don't know what the individual personalities of the apes are, but like with Jimmy and Universal Music Group, they have this NFT sub label for NFT music, right? And they've signed that the 4 apes for this band, right? So this is kind of, I think, stuff that like people are starting to like. They kind of realize you're exactly right. Like, if you can get the right people behind these characters, right, you could probably create something and kind of sneak it in there without people necessarily even knowing it's NFTs yet. Like, people will kind of know with the ape stuff, but that kind of thing could be popular with the right kind of people behind it
Mm-hmm.
and the right kind of music, right?
Yeah, and also,
And like, especially like you can buy pop. You can, if you're a big producer, you can buy ranks in the charts, right? So you can get it heard.
yeah, and even like the idea that obviously to become an artist yourself, you have a shelf life. So there's a bunch of people with a lot of talent and 35, 45, 55 plus that right now their only route to creating acts is find young people with some hype,
Right.
produce and write songs with them and have them. But now you don't even need to necessarily find young attractive people. You can just use session musicians and produce the music and write the music and have it fronted by cartoon profile pics. So I think we'll see a wave of it. I think I mean, it's Gorilla. To be fair, Gorillaz isn't the only one. Is it Lil Michaela, which is like she's an entirely
like a digital influencer.
Right? Yeah. So that's already been a bit of a wave in the last few years, but I think this really sort of could accelerate it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I can see this. Yeah, I can see this being a big thing in the future. I think even like in Japan, they've done something similar, like the Gorillaz with some sort of band that they created, a digital band. But yeah, seems like right in the wheelhouse for some of these like Doodles. Like I can see that working out.
Yeah, it's just, I guess the question is just going to be like, what are actually the, like, it's just the idea that Doodles have already split up their company in terms of whatever, there's 10,000 shares of some percentage of future revenue kind of thing. Like, what's the NFT part of the second thing? Like, they don't need to be NFTs necessarily to form an avatar band, but I think there's a way people, maybe if the Doodles project becomes big, this is like, NFTs was just the vehicle to like reward early supporters.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like the thing. Because I don't think the next phase of this stuff would necessarily be NFTs, and not other than like the same way you'd have like trading cards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. I don't see the $1 million. I don't see the million run cards necessarily being that valuable.
Yeah, no, there's no way they can be. But I guess there's going to be more people that own Doodles NFTs at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, with the stuff that springs to mind as well is like the K-pop bands where they have like an absolutely rabid following. So if you're into one, they almost like factions or tribes or whatever of followers, and like the fan clubs are huge news and huge business in K-pop, and like with the Doodles 2 collection, where presumably it's going to be super cheap and easy to acquire one and stuff. But if they're planning to kind of build this musical act around it, that gives almost a way of showing your allegiance by like acquiring one of these Doodles 2 collections, even if it's only like a few dollars to acquire. People are still going to want to do it, because if you build an act that has that kind of kudos and following grown around it, then people are going to want to join the tribe and join the community in the same way that we've done it on a small scale. We've proved the concept of wanting to be part of these tribes and communities, and now with music and someone as globally recognized as Pharrell, perhaps there's an opportunity to
And I think an element that doesn't necessarily people aren't like talking too much about, but the fact that you have that original 10,000 of the original Doodles, right? Like there's still a marketplace there. Like still people are still buying and selling those. And so if you can build a fan base that's larger, you actually also provide an easy way for a super fan to get involved themselves even more, even if they were late to the game, or even, which I don't think it's really hard. I think much harder to do later on, like in any other system, right? Like once the ownership is structured, they're not like necessarily going to give up their board seat or to give up their kind of place at the table. Then I don't know. I feel like there's a little more of a market a social market where you can like buy into the kind of the upper tier people in terms of like showing your allegiance and stuff like that. So I think there's so many social aspects to this that are unexplored yet. That I think that's going to be like the big next wave of PFPs is how do we, we have the inner circle stuff that people can enter and exit as they want to.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know how you guys feel. I'm maybe starting to come towards the end of the pod. Should we have a quick look at the 100 East challenge? I'm just really
curious. Yeah, let's do it. We've been avoiding it for a few weeks.
I know. That's why I wanted to do it, really. I thought it'd be funny. It might hang on.
Wait.
We'll have to wait
hopefully there's some green. Right. I see a little bit of green.
Okay.
Maybe
squiggles.
3 projects. Of course, Art Blocks is up.
All right. Oh, I'm only down 50%.
So who's in the lead right now?
Scaly.
Scaly?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Scaly's only drawn down 21% now. He's had a bit of a bounce.
Wow. Yeah.
What was his big win? Was
Squiggle and Gazer.
Well, he just hasn't had very much loss.
Yeah, he's been maintaining
Doodles as well. Yeah, because some of these things were down a lot, and now they're not down so much.
Let's go up to mine. Like I got wrecked on pretty much everything.
Those timed this
in terms of 17. Oh, Azuki! I bought an Azuki at the top. That's what killed me.
Well, let's look at Debs because he's like was all in on Azuki's for this challenge.
Oh,
yeah. He's down to 31 ETH.
I heard
the Akka charge is the other thing.
I heard the Azuki party at NFT NYC was like amazing though. That's what apparently, which is quite interesting.
Thank God my actual portfolio.
I thought Azuki's were supposed to have forgotten about those, but yeah, apparently they had one of the best and most well organized and highest production value parties at NFT NYC, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me either because I've heard the first party was great. So yeah, it seems like they're really do a good job of planning these parties.
And I didn't buy in this challenge what I actually own.
Yeah, I didn't either. Can you scroll back up? I'm just interested to see some of the makeup of what everyone's holding. Pep, you did the whole artifact thing.
Yeah.
This is my PFP profile. And so I got wrecked on all of it. But my Art Blocks portfolio is even if it's negative USD. Well, not like all time, but even during this the last 3 months, right? It's crushing. Everything's up with Art Blocks.
And we have the Eden Hordes. Every time I see Eden Hordes now, I just think of Scaly's for us, the Adam and Eden Horde.
Yeah, he hates them.
Yeah.
Oh, I like him. I like the concept. I don't know where it's going. The Merit Circle guys seem pretty cool.
Yeah. I like them too. Yeah. Just I don't know.
I played the thing.
Are you still holding them?
Yeah, I got a full set, and then I played the whole 8 weeks, whatever the chapters.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
So it was fun. Yeah. I don't know if that gets me anything. Maybe we'll see, but it's probably not going to worth anything anyway. So they're holding though. Like starting price, the floor right now is 33. Like it's not like it was like 40 maybe 2 days ago. It's not that bad.
I think I'm looking at my list. I think what hurt me is Sartoshi just leaving, and the MFR just went.
They're done.
Yeah, they're done. Thank you, Sartoshi, for that. Just ruining my 100 ETH.
I thought there was supposed to be. Everyone I think trying to sell was like, this is actually
it's actually a good thing.
Okay.
As they immediately list their MFR, this is really good.
Yeah. Oh man, what's going to be like in 5 years when that cast and crew, even if they're not like, I don't think they're all going to disappear, but like, like I'm talking about like that, just that there's that core 20, 30 kind of really active in Twitter influencers. Like the D's and Farouk and that group. I wonder, like in 5 years, everyone's going to go their separate ways. Like I'm sure they're going to make a ton of money, and so like they're probably not going to be able to keep this up for whatever 5 years. But is it going to be like now? It's going to watch like when we watch like Pomp or like some of these other guys. It's kind of like, oh, they've been around forever. It's kind of cringy or not, or I don't know. It's just going to feel so much different because there's going to be so much more people in the space that are doing their own little things.
You just reminded me of this that I saw as well. You know, this Coinfessions account. Have you seen this? Presumably, like
yeah.
people sending their anonymous confessions. Oh, I traded Luna and got wrecked. Blah blah blah. And I saw this one, which is I started an NFT project that barely took off, and now I feel forever tied to a failing project with no way to move on. There must be so many of those.
Zagabond.
I mean, you read exactly. Yeah, I was reading the exact same thing.
But there must be a hell of a lot of people that started things with good intentions. Like I personally know one or two people that, like, I know a guy in particular that I won't mention by name, and like when I saw this, I was like, shit, that could almost be this dude that they started an NFT project. The money goes to charity, and okay, it didn't sell super well, but now they feel really committed to the idea of doing this thing that had good intentions up front. Like, what do those people do? Do they just keep this thing going forever? Do they?
I think you gotta move on. And sometimes bad ideas are bad ideas.
Yeah,
that's pretty quite a good way to leave it. Cool.
Yeah, this is fun though.
Zinc, when's your DAO related week of nameless spaces coming?
We're still working on so we're doing a relaunch of like a nameless. We're kind of focusing on new things too as well. So we're doing a relaunch of the marketing and the content stuff in mid-July. So we don't have an exact date yet, but we're just building. We want to do a week of spaces on DAOs, and so we're just building a list right now. But yeah, no set date yet.
Okay.
Mid-July probably.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to think about what we want to do with Metanomics and what we want to do with the Spaces show, and kind of maybe push it more a little bit towards, align it more towards the product that we're trying to build at Nameless as well.
The build or,
yeah.
Cool, guys.
Yeah, it's an interest. So we'll see. But yeah, it's coming back. Don't worry.
Nice. Cool. Good pod.
It's the summer. No one cares.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Traditionally, the summers are quite quiet for crypto.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for people in the chat. I should probably shout everyone out. Out to Apple Pie, Chart, Commander Root, Lizzie Beth, I'm Killy, Kipper, Laurie Pub, Lurex, Paul, Sophia Fox, Super 8. Out to anyone who locks in while we were broadcasting. Pod should be out really quick. I know Scaly is traveling soon, and he wants to be able to listen to this podcast whilst he's traveling, so I'm going to do my best to get that shit edited for him specifically.
I'll make a confession. I've never listened to one episode.
Yeah, that surprises me.
There's no way. I hate listening to my voice, and I hate listening to what I was saying. I would just be the worst critic of myself.
So you don't even listen when you're not on? Do you ever listen to like?
No, it's too much. Anxiety, it's way too much.
It's funny.
I'll let you take care of these things.
You've got I'm right. I think you've got like a bit of a background in media appearances as well. So I just assume.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
No, it's just it never gets easier. You just go on, and then you never think about it ever again. That's the strategy. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully you get better, but like obviously to get really better at these things, you have to actually watch yourself and figure out what you're doing wrong. But,
yeah, you like the stand-up comedians talk a lot about the absolute need, and the same with public speaking and things like that. You kind of the need to review what you do, like squeeze out some of the like crutches that you use while you're speaking and stuff like that. Like, so yeah, I guess. I completely
terrifying. So I'll just pretend. As long as I could keep on getting asked back to things, then I'll take that as a sign.
Cool. Night, guys. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. See ya.